Hello and welcome to the last part of Introduction to Theory of Constraints series of Next Era Academy. This last part will be about Innovation the Theory of Constraints Way. Uh, the title is implying how to make sure that when we innovate new products or new services, we can make utmost and make sure that it is actually effectively contributing to business performance and to competitiveness. So let's dive right in. Uh, Innovation is a very attractive term today. Many companies are investing a lot of money and effort into innovation. And there is a belief that new products, new technologies are a significant means for competitiveness, which is by and large true, not as much as people would like to believe, but it is quite of an important element of competitiveness. But when we come to develop new technologies, new uh, products, or new services, we need to find a way to make sure that those uh, innovations are really not just sexy because they are new and because they are um, exciting, but also because they can provide value to the intended audience. And for that, we need to remember that uh, should be some guidelines and rules to help us make the choice. So we start with some necessary conditions. When can we get benefit from a new technology? And the first thing it is to realize that it can really bring a benefit when it removes from life a limitation that existed up until the point where this technology was introduced. Like an airplane, for example, removing a limitation of rapidly moving from a place to place, a limitation that existed before this technology was introduced. However, there are some things that we tend to forget. Uh, with all due respect to any new technology, people existed much before. And because they existed much before, they've learned to work, to live and accommodate a reality where the technology does not exist. In a sense, people lived under the following notion. Because a technology that enables us to do fly, let's say, does not exist, we will behave or live according to a rule that accommodates that fact. So, for example, we will not travel long distances, uh, or we definitely will not have our living dependent on locations which are remote. Those rules were in place because there was no technology that enabled otherwise. Of course, we could not say it before the technology existed, but de facto, in retrospect, this was the reality. So even if we have a new technology, and even if the new technology does remove a limitation, what is the effect if the rules that existed before the new technology was introduced will not change, will stay the exact same rules? Um, Let me give you another example just to be very clear about it. Um, Europe is an excellent example because when you travel around Europe or you live in Europe, you might look at buildings in the old centers of the town, and you will see that those buildings are not tall buildings. They would have 2, 3 floors, not more than that. Why? Why is it? Because when they were built, there was no technology that enabled building taller buildings. There were no cranes, there were no lifts. What would be the effect of having cranes and lifts, but keeping the rule that existed before of building relatively buildings that do not have, that are not tall, that do not have many floors? The technology would have bring very little value, if at all. So when we come to develop a new product or a new technology, innovative one, we need to ask a few questions. What is the power of this technology? What limitation will it remove? What rules helped us or the users, the intended audience, to accommodate the fact that the limitation existed? What are the new rules that are required? Uh, Maybe the fact that new rules are required mandate that we will make some changes in our intended configuration of technology. And how are we going to bring such a change into the target audience? Uh, if we will take an example, the ERP system, or even earlier, the MRP system. So the first MRP systems introduced were enabling sorry, the power of technology was power of calculation. They were able to do bill of material explosion, calculate the materials required, shift them upon time, and do it repeatedly, accurately, as many times as required. So the power of technology was a calculation power. The limitation was the time it took us to create a production plan. Basically, before the MRP system, uh, there were relatively large uh, production planning organizations that were engaged in developing a production plan, and normally they would do it at not not more frequent than once a month. So now the computer can diminish this limitation. The rule we used before was because of the complication, because of the uh, lengthy calculation required, because of the iterative nature of this calculation, and because of the cumbersome process of doing it, we will do this only once a month. When you do a production planning once a month, by definition, you define that the minimum supply time to the market is a month. As if an order comes today, it will come into the next month plan. So the minimum time for us to deliver an order will be a month, plus whatever it takes to produce the product. The new rule should be, okay, now we can uh, calculate as much as we want. So we don't have to do it once a month. We can do it even once a day. However, you will find that even today, there are still companies that even in the technology of today are running the MRP calculations once a month. So what is the value of the system now? What value do we get if we stick to the old rule that existed because technology did not exist before? Similarly, ERP. ERP, the power of the ERP is that it creates one infrastructure that has all the data required to support local decisions. The limitation is availability of information for the decision makers. The rules that help us accommodate the limitation before were local optima decision-making rules. Every system or subsystem within a system would make decision based on the best information on hand at the time of the decision being made. Now the information can be available from any part of the system at any time required. The rule should be now global optima decision rules. However, most ERP systems are accommodating and being modified to accommodate the local decision-making rules. As a result, you know how much you pay for ERP, you don't know how much value you get from using it, if at all. So these are the questions we have to ask. This is how we have to answer them. And every innovative product must pass the test. What is the power of this innovation? What meaningful limitation it is being removed? Then when we get the answer to that, we need to look at our target audience and ask, how are they living now? How they are accommodating the fact that this technology, that this limitation exists, and the fact that they do not have a way to overcome this limitation using the technology. So they have to overcome this limitation in a different way. Um, and what are the new rules that we need to bring to the market together with the product? Just bringing the product will be insufficient. Uh, Now that we have the answers, we need to look back at the innovative idea and ask, do we need to change anything in the way this innovation is going to be developed so it will effectively handle the change in the rules? And what go-to-market strategy will enable us to persuade the users not only to buy and use our new innovative idea, but also to give up on the rules they had before so they can maximize the benefit of using that. So it is not enough to have a great idea. It is not enough to have an exciting new technology. And reality is that, I don't know the last statistics, but way above 90% of the new technologies do not convert into successful products in the market. And it would be a result of failing to effectively answer one of these 6 questions. So if we do not have a new idea that it is clearly removing a limitation, if we do not understand what are the rules that people or consumers or intended audience had in place as long as the new technology did not exist to accommodate this limitation, if we do not identify the new rules that need to be in place, if you do not adapt your new technology to take care of the changes in the rules, and if you do not design a go-to-market strategy that will effectively persuade the market to drop the old rules, adopt the technology with the new rules, then it is not very likely that the new innovation will be successful. Uh, Thank you, and I hope you gained some value this time as well. As always, please share with us your feedback and comments. We are happy to learn and uh, improve. And the next series of educational videos will be already deep diving into each one of the subjects discussed in the introduction. So thank you very much for being with us, and goodbye.